Still Treant Protectors out here for Execration, John. Something new from them. Can't remember us seeing it over the past couple of days from Execration or any other team, so it's a bit exciting, a bit more sustained, bit of control. Very annoying to play into. It tends to slow down the push quite a lot. I wonder, 496, do they respect this hero? Do they care? Is it that much of a problem?
Ooh.
With the Storm? Maybe not.
I love that Storm pick. There's nothing to stop it from zipping in and out. You have Axe Call, which isn't reliable. You have Overgrowth, which is an ult. Arrow's not reliable. You have a lot of ways of just jumping the back line, getting a quick pick off, bailing out. And once you have the AoE Vortex, it's a lot of control. Once the Axe is up, you've got Ravage, Winter's Curse, Impale, Vortex. It's going to be really painful for Execration. And I like that they ban out the Life Stealer. This is a very clear signaling from 496 that they were going into that Drew Comfort pick. They take out the Life Stealer, wondering what sort of pause one to go for. They need something that can sort of handle the spec, or at least scale as well as the Spectre can towards that late game. Maybe you see something like Terrorblade coming out for 496's end. Could be a bit risky with Axe Mirana early on in the lane. Not the comfiest time for a Terrorblade, but could still be pulled off. That's something we've seen Drew play a couple of times as well, and does give them a really good win condition. So we'll see what it ends up being for 496. Execration has last pick overall. They can kind of pocket that Yoa pick. At the end, they do not have the option for the puck, as that is banned out from 496. You're going to have to look elsewhere. Maybe consider a Spirit Brother matchup. Void Spirit is still in the pool. No room for the Ember. You're going to want me to say this, but I guess I'll have to say it. Earth Spirit mid is still an option. It's not popular. It's not great.
That's the way, John.
It's a possibility if we're talking about the Spirit Brothers.
Why is it not great, John? What's wrong with the Earth Spirit mid?
It's just not good right now. No one does it, Mike. It used to be popular BTS Pro Series 2, 3, Summit 13 kind of times, but that was also the peak Snapfire mid core. I think it just kind of tapered off.
Are you implying that IceFrog needs to buff Earth Spirit?
Maybe he does, because it's not utilized by a lot of teams, right? Like, not many pawns.
That's all I need to hear, John. Thank you very much for that. He does need a buff. Yeah. Absolutely, IceFrog. If you're listening, please buff Earth Spirit. Make Boulder Smash stun again. That was the peak. That was when Earth Spirit was just perfect, you know? When Boulder Smash could stun, and you could literally stun a whole team if they lined up just very nicely. Weren't those the great days, John? Those were great days.
Those were the stomping days when people who actually knew how to play Earth Spirit actually just completely obliterated you. So
actually know how to play Earth Spirit? What do you mean? Are you implying that I don't play Earth Spirit well, John?
I'm saying other players in my pubs, not our party games.
All right.
Players in my pubs, you know, they roll in. Nowadays, they go core Earth Spirit. 496 go for the faces Void. That's one way to keep scaling into the late game. That kind of ties in with your team fight. A couple of things with this Void pick, though. You don't have the best, say, spells or heroes to play with a Chrono. You have the Void. Your Storm can hit from outside. Maybe the Winter Wyvern. You can kind of set up for Chrono with Winter's Curse into Chrono afterwards. That could be one way to pull that off as well with a Ravage follow-up. But there's a lot of cooldowns 496 will have to balance here. I mean, Execration has Haunt to worry about, but outside of that, Overgrowth's not that long, Moonlight Shadow is not that long, and they still have options for their mid. So 496 have to play a very well-paced game here. And we have seen the Void pick. I think the Void pick's almost as wonky as the Axe core that we've seen a couple of Voids. They haven't been doing well. And it's just been tougher to play around that Chrono. It's been tougher to get an advantage for that early team fight. Just a bit rough. We'll have to see if Drew can deliver that performance with his Void here.
I mean, I must admit, I'm not a big fan of the Faceless Void right now on that one roll at all. And there's your DP out now. So pretty decent team fight from Execration. I think they kind of tick all the boxes. 496, I mean, I don't know how to feel about this Void, John. Some games it looks unstoppable, but most games it looks like it's just always lacking damage. You can get a big Chrono off, but you just never see anyone dying in those terrible games. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I feel like it was one of the only options left for 496 to go for that can actually deal with the Spectre. Is it going to be good enough? That's the question I have. I suppose you could rely on the Storm by Hung anyway to kind of have that extra damage throughout the later stages of the game. I don't know, John. What are you thinking? The drafts are over. Execration, 496. One of these teams have to go home after this game. No second chances. So, who's got the better draft?
I think Execration has a better draft, honestly. I think they've got a better pace to play with. Their cooldowns aren't as heavy as Ravage, as Winter's Curse, as Chrono early on. It is still the dad bod coming out from that BB still. Like, not completely, but the gut is still sticking. Look at that stomach. Look at the polys. It's just...
Oh, now you're making switch over. I'll switch the scenes over so they can see, John.
Look
There
at
you go. There you go.
Look at the stomach. It's just sticking out there. Like, it's not even... look, his upper body's ripped, but then he has this belly.
Shout out to all the dads
Gets me
out
going
there.
every time.
Don't listen to John. You guys look beautiful. Shout out to all the dads with the dad bod. We'll have it one
No,
day
it's
too,
not
John.
that. It's that, he's got a really fit upper body. His arms are toned. His pectorals are
That's
pretty
the
toned as
dad
well.
bod.
And then the stomach's just out.
It's always that though. You go to the gym, you spend 2 hours benching, and you go home. That's all you do. You never
Just
you never
upper
work on the
body day.
midsection. Absolutely not. Nobody cares about the midsection, John. You just bench as much as possible. Shout out to all the gyms in Sydney, Australia. They'll know what I'm talking about. You can't get a spot on the bench in the gyms in Australia. I tell you, never. Anyway, regardless of that, I think the tide looks beautiful. He does have the new cosmetic. It looks fantastic, John.
Yeah, at the least it's not the squid, the octopus head as well, right? Like the dad bod on top of that, it's not even like a new head for Tide. He just literally puts an octopus on top of his head. So it's not as ridiculous right now from Dad BB, which is a good shakeup. Starting to care about his fashion. But going back to that point about drafts again, I think Execration's got a tighter draft to play with. They've got better early push coming out here as well. With that Death Prophet, 496 don't really have that push potential. And they're playing against a Treant. So they don't have great push on 496, and you compound that with the fact that they can't even push that well with their lineup. They have a Treant to have to deal with as well. Really nice to see that Execration and 496 are in a high mood. You can see BDZ and Palace saying they love Hung Hung. They meet again. No words back, though.
No. Hung Hung, a man of very few words, apparently. Well, we'll have to wait for Drew, who's having some internet issues, apparently. Not very good to hear. Hopefully it does get sorted out. How's your internet been, by the way, John? Seems to be pretty stable these days.
Well, besides that cut off a while ago, right when Drew on the Ricky was about to die, it's been steady. I'm very happy to say that my internet has been pretty good. I guess that's the difference when you get an ISP that says they're fiber and aren't, and you actually go to an ISP who does have fiber. So that's a big difference, Mike.
I imagine it would be. With that, we'll get into game number 3. 496 versus Execration. Again, one of these teams has to go home. Two very interesting drafts.
Did you see that message a while ago? Hustler throwing out the shade for everyone. He says to BDZ, Hung and you meet in real life and fight, please. Like a real fight club. BDZ says, yes, we'll meet at the airport.
Is there actually beef? Is that what's going on? Is there actually beef between these two?
Maybe. Maybe it's something from their pubs. Maybe they have disagreements. I've seen some pubs with, certain players and certain people get tempers flared. It's Dota 2, of course. You always
Southeast
kind of
Asia.
have to get mad.
I mean, it's Southeast Asia, John. I mean, I'm a caster and I go off at people in pubs. It's just, that's how we do it. It's just nobody's safe when it comes to the SEA server. That's what strengthens you, John. You've got to go through the pain and the suffering of these pub games. That's how it works. But these two, having a bit of beef, it must have gone very far. Very upsetting to hear.
Yeah, it's the nature of pubs. We'll see if that does carry over, as they are starting to clump around. Really good wards to watch. Nice ramp ward here from Execration to watch. They should have an idea that Bombi was around and Drew as well. See how far they commit.
Drew, gonna try. Arrow, gonna be off the mark, but they just wanted to make sure the bounty was gonna be taken by their side. 2-for-2 trade, nothing too special happening here. Be a nice even start. And while we're here, we'll talk about the top lane. John, of course, you've got Nico on his offlane Axe, along with BDZ on his Mirana. Going to be up against Bombi on the Wyvern for the 3rd game in a row. And you've got Drew for the first time on his Faceless Void. Now, on paper, it doesn't look like the most fun laning stage for Drew, right? Against the Axe, against the Mirana. You don't want to get caught by that call because you can cop the arrow. And even without that, without the kill threat, just having to contest an Axe with spin is always going to be quite annoying.
Yeah, it's not a very stable lane for Drew, and he can kind of play around with a time walk, but once calls out, it's a bit of a back and forth, and kind of stuck on RNG for both heroes. Like the spin for Nico is RNG based, Drew, once the time locks up, is also RNG based, so it's all about rolling the dice here. Very much a gambler's lane. The one advantage you have for Execration is that I think the Mirana is going to have a better time here. You can always just opt to trade hits with Bombi, or you can always just secure the range creep, take some camps out. Unfortunately, that large camp is blocked by a sentry, so not going to have that option for fast EXP here.
Bombi just kind of getting taken by Nico. Drew, of course, does have that time walking. Oh, bot lane. It's where the first blood happens. RR goes down on the Train Protector. Look, Hustler will be the one to pick up the first blood.
Yeah, that's one thing you have to watch out for on the train. If you have a lot of HP, you have good right-click damage. If you have 1 armor, and you get gushed up, right-click damage just amplifies with -4 armor. Has to be a bit scary. They can look for opportunities down the line. You know, with the dagger up, with the early levels in Nature's Grasp, you can get some good slows and damage off. But this Tide is still relatively tanky to deal with, and at level 2, he's got the Anchor Smash, so your right-click damage on the Treant and on that Spectre does drop a significant amount.
Hung, mid lane, gonna go into Yoe now. A lot of damage being dealt by that Storm. Yoe, he does have the Spirit Siphon, but it's at level 2 now. I suppose he can commit it onto Hung if he so wishes, but it's like he'll hold on to it for at least now, and they'll both go and get their respective water runes. Regarding this mid lane, though, do you think Yoe should have the advantage on the Death Prophet, or do you give that advantage over to Hung on the Storm?
We've seen this one go back and forth. I think the DP in this case purely focuses on really clearing out the creep wave, because you don't trade hits with a Swarm.
That BB, that is a very tight scenario for him, and yeah, he's going to go down. Nice pick up there from Palos and RR. And I apologize, John, you were saying...
It's just down to trades. Like, look at Yoe. He comes in, Spirit Siphon, but you don't win the right-click war with Static Remnant and Overload up, and then even a control from Vortex. So you focus on those creep waves. You do not want to give Hung the opportunity to chip away at your HP, even if you've got some self-sustain. And you really have to watch those runes up top.
They are to make the jump in. Bombi again being targeted. They won't have the call to lock him down, so he should be fine. In fact, Palos ends up dropping down at the bot lane. Apparently, that's the lane we should have been watching. And meanwhile, mid lane, Hung ends up dying. Right, so we missed all that, John. Very unfortunate stuff. So Palos goes down to the bot lane, and so does RR. In the meantime, Hung dies in the mid lane to Yoe. And of all things, the top lane that we were looking at amounts to no kills.
It is what it is, and you're seeing that activity that we know and love from Southeast Asia with lots of early kills. Oh.
Palos immediately, as soon as he comes in on the Spectre, they try to just force him out, and I've got to say I love that, right? Because he did just TP in, so if you could manage to somehow find another kill on the Spectre and force him to have the Walk of Shame, it'd be so detrimental to Palos, but at least for now he is going to be able to survive, and RR is back with a bit of regen for him, so he'll be just fine.
Yeah, and you can see just how far both sides are pushing that aggression. We've got really good lanes to play with. They want to get that early start. They want to stop each other's pawns once from farming, and this is a big weakness for both the Spectre and Faces Void. Flash farm is not their forte, at least not without any items. And if you get a slow laning start, your initial farming item stalled out, that's going to slow down your pace, slow down your mid-game item spikes, and that's never good for both of these heroes. So you can see why that emphasis is coming through from both sides to slow down those safe laners.
Certainly so. Mid lane Hung, top of the CS board now, even with that death that occurred earlier on. Still looking very confident on the Storm. Of course, for Yoe, it's very important he has a good game with this Death Prophet. You don't really want to fall behind on a hero like this. You can always kind of abuse the exorcism, but, you know, in that mid to late game, if you die too quickly, it's just going to feel very lackluster. So he just wants to be able to at least keep up with Hung in this mid lane and make sure he has himself a good game. At
the level 6 mark, could look to shove in the mid if he wanted to. And they are rotating Hustler to soak some of that EXP off in that downtime. And looks like Hung is looking for an early opportunity up top. He's got some good mana on hand. could look to dive deep if he wants to here.
Nico gets the call off. It's going to be a fair bit of damage onto Drew, but he will walk it off as now the arrow does land onto Hung as he was walking his way in. They are still going to try onto Nico. He's a very tanky axe right now, and here comes the DP. Yoe going to join in, try to help him out. They'll jump in after Drew. BDZ going for the real target, but the bashes are coming out. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hung, he's going to go for a TP plane. He will make it out. Bombi, he'll be the one to drop it. Meanwhile, BDZ has salved up. Arrow is there, gets the vision onto Drew, and they're going to try and chase him down now. He'll time walk away, but they can still try for the chase. The Siphons not out. He'll go for the time dilation, but here come the Ghosts and Yoe. Gets a very nice crypt swarm off, and we'll find a double kill up at that top lane. Is Bombi? Oh, I'm not sure about that TP, sir. That is not the greatest of TPs I've seen, John. As he gets caught out by Nico, and will go down, and that is going to be a walk of shame for Bombi.
Going to be a bit tough. Nico at level 6 now with the dunk. Just much more potent to have up front. He already has his Vanguard up, and I don't know why you make that rotation top. I figured you'd go for the Mirana. Much easier target to go for, but even if that arrow didn't land on Hung, the damage output is just not great. Like, he blocks so much for right clicks. Your Overload's still at level 2. Your Static Remnant's still at level 2 at that point when he jumped in. You didn't have enough Magical Burst to deal with an axe to eat through that regen. And it was a bit optimistic from 496, so very well played from Execration to counter that. The one downside for Execration is that they did not
arrow.
get Tower to Drew.
Yeah, very nice call there by Nico. BDZ was ready with the arrow to just lock him down right at the end of the call, and we even had the haunt in from Palos, but it's a nice haunt, right? You want to be in this section to farm anyway. So he just kind of abuses it, gets a bit of the kill gold, and just keeps farming, keeps pushing that tier 1 top tower.
Yeah, they're just lining up all the hits, and this is what you like to see for Execration. They've got the push advantage as well. They can shove in towers. Even without natural pusher, they don't have to deal with the Treant. And, you know, even without Exorcism, they can just run that right through for 496. If they try to make a counterplay here, shoving the bot, look at that living armor. That BB can't rip through the bot tower for a trade, so they're not going to end up finding that map equilibrium anymore.
Well, they found Bombi out of position. Trying to run from Yoe, but yeah, there's no way out of that one. At the very least, I suppose the double damage rune is going to be down at the bot side, so they're still going to secure the power rune, but they are losing a hell of a lot here against Execration. As Palos, he does secure the top tier 1 now on the Spectre. And he's farming very well as well. I mean, he's sort of behind on the Spectre, but it's to be expected. The fact that Palos is even further behind is a bit of a problem, as now Hung is going to jump in with that DD rune, and I suppose Palos, he might die now, but no, Nico, he'll be his bodyguard, gets a nice call off with the Cold Embrace, going to make sure Hung does not take too much damage, and Nico, he's still sticking around very confidently, as BDZ was coming in with an arrow. Doesn't land it in the end, but you keep Palos alive, and that's all they really wanted.
Yeah, it's a good stave on Palos. It forces your Storm to really not do much. He drains his mana pool. He can't really farm now. He has to go for a reset. DD's expended as well. So 496 are missing out on some potential aggression coming through. They are trying to buy space out for Drew to farm. Got that bot jungle to play with. He doesn't have the tier 1 cleared out, so it's still not the safest spot. But it's as safe as can be with the state of the game right now. And Execration is just doing a fine job. They've got the top jungle in their control. They've got forward wards here. They've got that ward between the tier 1, tier 2 mid. Jungle ward down. They know where 496 is playing, and they are abusing that quite nicely.
They are. Just keeping that bot lane pushed out very nicely. They're trying to find him, but it's a Treant Protector. It's going to be a very hard ask to be able to actually find this guy out. Like you said, he'll just constantly keep regening up that tier 1 bot. You're basically going to have to commit the whole team to trying to get it. Speaking of the whole team, Hung has joined in. So was Hustler. Drew even showing up on the Void, and now RR does get spotted for a second. And he's just going to back off. Keep clearing up the creep wave, and if they're going to push the bottom tower, Execration, they can start pressuring the mid tower. They don't have the Exorcism up, but they can still get some substantial damage with the siege creep that's on the way right now. And I don't think 496 can actually stick around that bot lane to finish off the tier 1. They have to defend the mid lane.
Yeah, they kind of overcommit. 4 heroes bought, not enough space to farm for Hung and for Drew, and for that BB. So all 3 cores not getting as much done. Look at all the space this gives Palos. He's up top. He's right next to the tier 2, and there's no punishment. This is a Spectre left alone to farm. That is not good news for 496. Even though nothing big's happening, these sort of small micro placement positions on the map is really hurting the economy of 496 by a big margin.
Just noticed, by the way, but Palos, he does not have the Arcana. Just kind of felt weird. I just looked back and I was like, wait a minute, there's no Arcana on Palos.
I'm actually glad. I honestly, at a visual glance, I keep mixing up Spectre Arcana with Winter Wyvern. It just confuses the heck out of me. Just because of the head. Like, you look at the portrait, I get instantly confused. They look so alike.
Thank you for that, John. 496. Still taking their time, need a bit more farm up. They have gone 4k behind in terms of net worth. I mean, that is pretty darn huge at the 11-minute mark. Considering they are only 4 kills behind, but it's just the amount of map that they can control right now is so limited, as Hustler is going to get spotted by the dust, and Yoe has the Yule Scepter into the arrow of BDZ. Nice easy kill there onto Hustler. Execration, they are well and truly in control of this game number 3.
It's really awkward as they are wrapping around mid. They do have Chrono to play with on Drew if they want to sort of set up. Ravage is ready as well. Winter's Curse is ready. It just doesn't feel like they can really hammer in those combos. There's a lack of damage in the Void, and that's the big issue. You don't have items up in your face's Void, your Storm's not ready to go as well, so even if you do have these spells, it can take longer than you'd expect to find those kills, and that would be enough time for Execration to either respond or retreat in proper fashion. So it's just hard for 496 to find those openings. I think the ideal situation is that Hustler finds someone out and maybe you zip in with your Storm, but we've seen it before. Like, he runs with a Vendetta, he doesn't have the best information to go with on the map. Look at the ward of 496. They literally only have 1 ward here on their own jump, so there's not enough info for a Nyx to play around with.
Definitely looking very rough so far. Bot lane, oh, they found Bombi. Still sticking around that bot lane, trying to keep it pushed out, but Nico does catch him, and the dunk's gonna be there. Nice spins flying out from our axe. And shout out to Nico, by the way, because he went for a blink before a Manta style. Very nice.
Yeah, this is really what he wants to see. And at the pace Nico is playing, at the rate Execration's going, this could be our first axe win. As long as they don't do anything too silly down the line. 496, this net worth gap is just so consistent. The cores aren't too far behind if you look at that farm distribution. It's not too bad yet. But if it keeps up, it's not going to be great.
Mid lane, they've got the tide. This is not going to be that easy of a kill, but they get this on top of the Kraken Shell. Does purge it off. Still, he is in massive trouble. Even with the Ravage committed, it just won't matter, as now they want the backside. They found Bombi. Curse is not going to trap Palos, and they will just keep going after this Winter Wyvern. They will find another. In fact, why not add even more? Hustler trying to help, but a 3-man silence is there from Yoe. Who are they going to chase? They'll get the Nyx Assassin. So clean from Execration in Game 3.
Just perfect execution. They time that haunt after the Ravage. Palos immediately jumps into the back line after finding the tide. They get a mid-tier 1 off the back of those kills. And 496, the response is just too shaky. Like, the Winter's Curse doesn't line up again. We saw those issues for Bombi in Game 1. It's coming out back here in Game number 3. Drew just can't use his Chrono. He gets silenced. He has no defensive items.
On the bright side, Hung, he does pick off BDZ, so you get something. But it is certainly not anywhere near enough to bring them back to this game yet. We still have the Chrono up on Drew, but I just doubt he's going to have the damage in it. Unless we're talking about a support, but even then, I think the only option is the Mirana. And that's not going to be that easy against BDZ. So 496, they've got some farming to do, but unfortunately, even in that department, they're falling quite behind. 5k behind now. Palos, he's got that Echo Saber up, so his farm is... It's going to go a lot faster than it used to. It's going to be quite problematic for 496, as Hustler's keeping the vision up on this Spectre, but you haven't got anyone to capitalize with it. It's just... He's just kind of watching him farm.
Yeah, I mean, Bombi's around as well, but you really need a core to pierce through that Spectre at this point, and they're not really getting that done. At least they snuck out a bounty rune right there, but that just led to a ping coming through, letting them know that perhaps something was up. And Execration, they still maintain a 5k lead. So I don't think you mind this at all. Slower pace of game, you're not using your big ults on 496. Execration are smoked up on the hunt. Drew could be a really big kill here.
BDZ gonna have his smoke broken. Moonlight Shadow not popped. So they do spot him out. Nico, oh, just off the mark with that call. Very, very close, but not quite close enough. DD Rune gonna be spotted at the bot side. That BB gonna pick it up. No, he's not. Nico's in. He's got the DD for himself. It won't matter anyway. They can't really kill that BB with only the axe. He'll be okay. Meanwhile, though, on the other side of the map, it looks like Palos has been caught out, but the Moonlight Shadow's there, and he's just man-fighting. He is still alive. They can't kill him. Hustler, gonna be left behind. The call is out. Nico catches him and kills him off. And Hung now needs to be cautious as even across the map, Bombi dies to BDZ. Nico's still looking for Hung on this storm. He's sticking around, trying to kite them out as they do have the Ravage. There's a blink in. Nico, he was kind of off the mark. Drew now comes in, trying to get some damage up, but there's your call out. Can they hold him down long enough? They'll get a Haunt in, a big Ravage as well, but Palos is in now, and Drew, he's dropped straight away as now the silence. They've got Hung on the Storm Spirit. He's trying to run, but can he get out in time? Not quite. He'll drop as well. That BP, he's going to try and run, but it's going to be a slow, painful death unless Bombi can commit the best curse of his life, but it's quite hard to see. Is that... Did he just cancel? He just cancelled his TP. Buybacks are there, curse is out, it's only on Palos. Yowie, he has the ghost going. Hung, gonna try and jump in. A nice impel there from Hustler. Might be able to turn this one around. Nico does drop to boot. Now Hung, he'll go after Palos, but I don't think they'll quite have the damage as Palos. He turns around again. He wants to fight. RR, he's still around. You haven't got many skills. Arrow does not land, but Hung, he's out of mana.
Oh god.
That's a dieback as Drew now comes in with the chrono, but look at the damage, John. He'll get a lucky bash, he'll get the Maelstrom proc, and he'll get the kill, but how much has it cost them to kill off this Spectre? BDZ, he's got 2 leap charges. Drew hoping for a bash, not getting lucky yet. BDZ being very patient. There's a triple bash. BDZ, he's alright. He's going to be fine.
That was a very expensive fight for 496. Dieback in the Storm is pretty costly. They didn't need to lose their tide there as well. Just overcommitting those kills. And it's one of those small slip-ups we saw in Game 2 from 496, where they just kind of push a fight way too long. They overextend themselves, and it doesn't pan out in their favor. Now, they do kill the Spectre, which is a pretty decent kill, but this is not putting a huge dent on Palos' farm. Still going to be able to find that Manta at a quick time. They are still sort of clump around top, but I don't think you're in fighting shape. You've lost all of your big spells. Vendetta's still running on Hustler, so he could maybe look for a small play here.
Hustler, try and back off. He doesn't look like the look of Nico. I wouldn't mind going after BDZ, but even that might be a tough kill for him. Again, he's just getting vision for his team, but he's being a little bit annoying, just soaking XP off Nico, and that'll be about it. It's all about buying time for 496, as they are just way too far behind to really commit to these team fights, and especially with the buybacks that were committed last team fight, it just puts you that much further behind. A very rough position, especially for Hung, who appears to be trying to go for that Kaya and Sanj. There's now Execration. They're going to Moonlight Shadow up. Drew, be a very nice target. He commits the time walk and they spot him out. The pings are there. Nico, he just needs the call and he'll be able to get it. A very nice one at that. Arrow does land. They get the silence and they will get the kill. BB now gonna try and make a run. Nico not gonna be able to keep up. However, on the other side of the map, Bombi dies to Palos. Palos is getting solo pickoffs already. Roshan time.
It's a power of that Echo Saber plus Manta build. Like, it makes your Haunt so potent. The issue is still that cooldown, but really good positioning from Execration, taking that fight into Roche Pit. The Exo still enough time for 496 to respond. I mean, Hustler's still zipping around Invis. It's just that they've got good sentries here.
Oh, they found the Nyx Assassin as well underneath the Sentry Ward. Hustler. My Carapace, a very nice impel as well. He's going to try for the TP, but no. Yoe has the Yule Scepter, and that'll be another. Very, very rough position as now you've got an Aegis Spectre. They've killed Palos off twice during the laning stage, but that's about all they got. And he's looking quite unkillable already. It's a very tough kind of ask to kill him off twice now, let alone dealing with the rest of Execration.
He's just super tanky. He's got really good stats. He's rushing into the Basher next. So even more potency when stats up on his Haunt. And we're not seeing the same scaling from 496 just yet. S and Y up on the Void is nice, but doesn't really help with your damage, which is really my big issue with Faceless Void nowadays. You go for this Maelstrom S and Y build, which is super durable, but if you chrono alone, it just doesn't do anything. Maybe you kill a support, as you said, but that's it. Like, I kind of miss the old Mask of Madness build. As a fighting Void, it's a lot better and you can still farm with it. It's just a bit riskier, but you just don't have that same impact right now. And Execration, with all the objectives they have on hand, with the Aegis on hand, they're just going to rip through that top tier. Ooh. And again, there's just no strong defense from 496. They still haven't found a tier 1, Mike, because they're playing against a Treant without any push heroes. They just don't have objectives to take.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give credit to RR. He's done a really great job of making this map just so tough to play on for 496, and this is what it kind of goes back to. Just, you can't get those towers, that means you can't really farm safely. And you can see Execration again invading 496's side of the map. Trying to find a decent target to start on. They'll head down towards the south where Hustler gonna go for a TP out. Back towards the north for Execration. They can catch through another time. It'll just be so impactful, but Bombi is going to be around and the call is out. Nico, he's got the target. Arrow is there, right on time, but the Cold Embrace going to buy more time for Drew to get himself out. They've lost Bombi and now Palos is right on top. Drew, he is forced to defensively chrono, but he's still dying to the Ghost. Ravage, maybe they can turn now. Yo has gone down, but that's about all they've got on as Nico will be back in with the call onto the Tide. They should be able to find that BB. He'll try to run to the high ground, but there may be no running. In fact, no, he got the 4-staff off. He'll be alright as hung now. Back onto Palos, but there's no damage. Nico still going. Impel does not land. Drew, he uses time dilation, but that's about all he can do at the moment.
Yeah, it's a weird back and forth. I think you're kind of happy if you're 496. You do manage to kill off the bigger hero, trading out your Winter Wyvern, and you force out the Haunt, but you lose your chrono. So you have to play now with a Winter's Curse, no Ravage up as well. Some opportunities for Execration here.
Easy pin. Nice impel out. They've got BDZ. They'll take him down, and now Nico, he's overextended. Are they going to chase him far enough, though? Not quite. So 496 kind of just taking baby steps to try and get a comeback going in this game. Again, you question whether they can really go up against the Spectre late game. But in terms of net worth, Drew, just 1.5k behind the Spectre now, so he's not too far behind. He is going for a Satanic up next. Again, maybe just lacking some damage, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I like this build-up coming out from 496. They've managed to give enough space to Hustler that he's got the Ags. That is a big turnaround. We've seen him really do a lot of work with his impales in the middle of these fights, with a burrow on top, with the AoE stuns he gets with his Spike Carapace. It's going to be a lot harder for Execration to fully dictate these engagements, and that's going to be a massive boon. We've seen what happens when they get a good Ravage, get a good impale, follow up with a good chrono, and they can still win these fights. Net worth advantage 8k. It's not as bad as you think. You pointed it out. Drew's actually not lagging too far behind. So this is still very playable for 496 in the right conditions. Execration, because they expended Haunt, they're going to have to wait about 20 seconds. But they've got the Basher up on the Spectre. They're going to have Butterfly soon.
Running right up the staircase into his death. Moonlight Shadow, they want to keep going. I mean, why the hell not? BDZ now with the Yule Scepter up, wants to try and set up with this arrow. And I love the fact that BDC is essentially gone for the exact same build every game on Mirana, yet it seems to be very impactful. He may go for a Lotus Orb, but he probably will try to finish off a Wind Waker later on. And I've got to say, he's been doing a great job with these Wind Wakers. As Hung is going to zip in, but there's your Yule Scepter out. They've got him. Do they have enough, though? The call is there. The silence was there as well. Overgrowth is out. RR, they need the damage. FTZ will rather tap BP. He gets a Ravage out. They get Hung away, but no, Nico kills him off with the Battle Hunger, and now it's onto Bombi. That BB also dropping, and there's another. Bombi goes down to boot. It's just looking tougher and tougher. Onto the top lane, Drew. They just keep chasing them down, but Nico, blink on cooldown, sir. Will not be able to get the call off.
That was just so risky from Hung. Zipping right in the middle, not quite zipping instantly back because of the turn rate. Really quick fingers out from BDZ to get that Yulet's off. Pretty much just hovering over the storm, looking for that opportunity and instantly casting it at the right time, setting up for his team. They even find a tier 2 mid, so there's only one outer tower left here for 496. Map space to farm is limited. It goes back to draft bite. They've got a Faceless Void, they've got a Storm. Even the Tidehunter, to a certain extent, needs farm. There's not enough space to get all of these heroes online. They really need to line up their team fights. It looked good. The Ravage, the Winter's Curse looked like it could have bought enough time, but it just isn't the engagement they want. They need to be the ones setting these fights up themselves, and 496 have not been the aggressors in a very long time here.
Bombi. Oh, call this out, Nico. He's got the Manta now. He just shreds Bombi. Top sweet. It's Nico. He's just so tanky. They're going to try and drag him up to the high ground, and they get him there as well. Nico, the king of the hill. They'll throw the Impale out, but can they kill him now? They will eventually with the Anchor Smash. Yoe, though, trying to start another team fight. Hustler within the burrow is going to be very annoying to deal with throughout this team fight. But Palos will just get to work. Drew, not committing the chrono yet, is just being very, very patient. Onto the high ground. Hustler goes now. It won't matter, though. Drew, he is still holding on to this chrono, by the way, John. Curse is also there. That BB getting taken down slowly but surely. There's your buyback now. Hustler coming back into the team fight. They'll try it on Palos, but there's your Overgrowth out from RR. Chrono, but the Overgrowth was there. They lose half the duration. Is it gonna matter though? Palos, he's still dropping very, very low, but not low enough. They're killing themselves here by hitting him. He'll survive another day as they buy back even more, but it probably won't matter. As Hung, he'll zip in. He might find a Mirana, but it's just not gonna be worth it. It's just not worth the buyback.
No, really isn't. It's just watching. I was watching that BB run away from Spectre Illusions. Even those things can really dig in at this point with his item buildup. Palos is just a beast. He's pretty much got his butterfly, 1,000 gold off at what, 28 minutes in. Manta, Echo Saber, Power Treads, Basher, Butterfly. He is just so farmed up. And it's going to be near impossible to kill him once that full butterfly is up. The evasion's going to cause issues, both for the Storm and for that Faceless Void. They have to start considering more items to come true here. Drew, he's switched over towards a Mjolnir finish up next after that Satanic was halfway done. Should help with the damage issues. Certainly would appreciate those lightning procs bouncing around. It's just a ways off, and that's the one issue. All of these items are still going to take some time to farm up. Map space is still limited. Hung on the Storm, he's going for the Ags. So it's more of that AoE control, and if they can just lock in the control, it can look good. But Execration are not giving them room to breathe. They've smoked up again.
They have. 496, they're going to smoke up to boot. They want to go for the fight. They don't have chrono. They've got the Ravage, they've got the Curse, but that's about all they've got going for them. Alright, he'll break the smoke and blink right out. Seems like Bombi has to be the one to start the fight as they smoke up again. Ward's down. You can try to rely on that BB, but no, it's going to be Hung. He zips in after the Treant Protector, but Nico's there with the call now for the Ravage. Is going to buy more time, or is it? Yoe, he already found Bombi. They haven't got their Wyvern. There's no buyback, and now Hung, he's been caught out as well. Drew, he's going to try and fight, but who can you fight right now? Who on this Faceless Void can he actually take on? Probably nobody, as they get the call off. They ask him for a 1v1, but they're going to go 3v1 instead. Palos, he'll keep the chase up with the bashes out. Drew, he will die another time. There are no buybacks left. It looks like it's about that time, John, for Execration to go high ground.
They've got a lot of room to get that done. They do not have Haunt, but it doesn't really matter. Very well timed double damage for Palos as well, making short work of all of these heroes. He even has the Orb of Destruction. So it's one of those things. You get the perfect items, you can kind of split up your push. Nico's just keeping the mid lane constantly shoved in. The illusions up forward. Top racks are going to be next as well for Palos, Yoa, and EDZ. And there's just no defense. They do have the... they've got the Winter's Curse and the Chrono ready here, but there's just no damage. There's just not enough to play with any of these team fight spots they have.
As you call out, Nico, he has got that BB under control, but they haven't got the follow-up. Instead, they're being very, very clinical here. They just want the towers. No messing around for Execration. 496. As bad as it looks, they could make a comeback, but Nico, he's got the call out once again onto that BB. The Cold Embrace is not going to matter as the arrow does land, but now the curse is there. Maybe they get Yoe, Meteor Hammer in, the Aeon just keeping him alive. The Void TP's in, but the Yule Scepter BDZ again. Chrono is out, he's got 3 of them, but where's your damage? There is 0 damage flying out. They get another call out, they've got Drew under control. Do they have the follow-up? There's your stuns out, Drew. Will time walk away, but now Hung, he copped the arrow. BDZ, he gets him in the backside. Palos now, right onto Bombi, finds the Wyvern. 3 dead without buyback as they get onto the Void, and it looks real bad from his Nico. Puts the dunk in, puts the lid on this game. It looks like as the GG has been called an Execration. They will pull it off. The 2-1 victory after such a bad start in game 1. They make it work, and they will proceed to round 3 of this lower bracket.
They play spectacularly well. I think Game 3 is the finest showing of Execration, and this is the Execration that I think a lot of people were looking for coming out from the Anti Major. They had a good showing there. I think it's fair to say they were the underdogs for the most part in the Anti Major, but they showed up and did spectacularly well, all things considered. Coming in here, this is the performance we were looking for all series. They played perfectly clean start to finish. They had a really good draft. 496. They kind of went left field. They went back to the Faceless Void. I don't think we've seen it win in Southeast Asia in a while. Across multiple tournaments. Just doesn't pan out. There was a big lack of damage. They had a really good team fight from 496, but never enough follow-up. Next Execration managed to find that punishment. They never even lost a tier 1 tower, right? Like for the most part, they had all their towers intact because of that treant from RR. And the execution from Execration was very swift. So very well played to them. Well-deserved win moving on. Unfortunate for 496. The TI dream ends here for them. They're going to have to look to a different year, bounce back in, but hopefully 496 boys kind of learn something from this and use that to improve for the next seasons.
Absolutely, John. I mean, obviously a hard day for them, but you know they look good. They look cleaner than what we were used to maybe a month or 2 ago, and obviously there's been some solid improvement. Back to the DPC it is for them, and we'll see how they do come back, hopefully stronger next season. Of course, with that though, John, we do have our second series of the day to begin. Motivate Trust up against Signal Ultra. Should be a very exciting series to occur. I believe it is going to be roughly a 10-minute break before we do get that series started. But before we do go, John, just wanted to say, Axe is no longer 0% win rate. So there you go. Shout out to Execration. They made it work. They made this hero work. Apart from that, we are going to head to this break. And once we do return, of course, Motivate Trust versus Signal Ultra to see the second team today that will be making it through to round 3 of the lower bracket. We'll see you soon.